Hey, Ryan Adams here, and in this one I'm going to share with you my top 5 plant-based foods that destroy belly fat. If you're new here, this is what we do, meal of the day, or in this case, snack of the day breakdown. Very quick and simple one from me here. It's a big old bowl of strawberries, and there's a reason why I've actually got these bad boys in front of me. I'm kind of spoiling the surprise, you'll see in just a second. But let's do this then. Drum roll please. What are my top 5 plant-based foods for destroying belly fat? Can you guess? None. That's right, none at all. No foods destroy belly fat. Sadly, that's not how this process works. You lose fat, not just belly fat, fat from everywhere, by your body detecting that it is deficient in calories and therefore tapping into those fat sources, that fat storage rather, for energy. There is no one food that induces this process. It is about being in a consistent calorie deficit, as I'm sure you've heard many times, but we neglect sometimes, but it is about being in that calorie deficit very, very consistently day after day. That's how you're going to lose fat from everywhere, not just your belly. No food induces or triggers this process. Sorry, I've clickbaited you. Sorry to dupe you. However, I am actually going to share some of the foods that are actually a mainstay in my diet when I, like I am right now, I'm just trying to lean down, just chisel down just a little bit. These are some of the foods that actually make it considerably easier for me personally to maintain a calorie deficit. So these foods don't on their own destroy belly fat, but they better allow me to finish each and every day in that calorie deficit. And as I say, they are staples in my diet for years and years now in the periods where I'm just trying to lean down, trim down a little bit. Now, you already know one of them, hint, hint, not so subtle, right? But the first one is largely vegetables of any kind, especially the non-starchy types. So, certainly green vegetables as a rule of thumb, but you're also thinking a lot of our nightshades. So you're thinking the likes of eggplant, you're thinking, bell peppers, you're thinking zucchini, courgette, mushrooms will get a special shout out here. But these non-starchy veggies, utterly incredible because of their low caloric density, meaning you actually get quite a lot of volume for very few calories comparatively versus lots of other foods under the plant-based vegan nutrition umbrella, let's say. So number 1 is vegetables. I'm adding vegetables, as you guys know, to pretty much all of my lunches and dinners. It's very rare that a lunch and dinner time, passes for me and I'm not having a bunch of vegetables on my plate, really lending to that fullness. Of course, it depends what else you're having with those vegetables and in what quantity you're having those vegetables. But for me, having a large portion of my plate being veggies is a great way to limit the calorie intake. The second food item that's a staple in my diet in the periods where I'm trying to lean down, actually, this could have gone in the first category of non-starchy veg quite easily, but something slightly different about it, which means it deserves a special shout out from me here, and it's cauliflower rice. Cauliflower rice I love. It's a brilliant way to start substituting some of the whole grains in your diet. Not that I'm anti whole grains, as you guys know, big fan, big fan, fiber and the other nutrients. Whole grains are a massive part of my diet now, and again, whether I'm trying to lose weight or just maintain weight, whole grains are still, I'm not anti-carb, whole grains are still a wonderful part of my diet. But a little hack that you can use to trim off a few calories from your diet, better guarantee that you're in that calorie deficit or get yourself in that calorie deficit and therefore lose some body fat, is to switch some of the whole grains in your diet out for cauliflower rice. Brilliant hack. I know some folks, the disclaimer here is some folks have a hard time digesting, cauliflower rice, because often the companies that produce cauliflower rice are doing it very cheaply, and they're doing it with the nub of the cauliflower, which is the stalk of the cauliflower, which is can be quite hard to digest actually. So be careful with this. If you're new to cauliflower rice, I would suggest feeling it out first. And if you have a bad reaction to some cauliflower rice, naturally you'll wish to stay away from it, but there might be some brands that actually use the florets themselves, the head of the cauliflower, to produce the cauliflower rice. And so you might have a much better shot with digestion discomfort-wise with that. But cauliflower rice, amazing, so low in calories. Number 3, you already guessed this one, it's berries. Fresh fruit generally has a very low caloric density. Dried fruit is an exception, of course, because the water is extracted. So things like medjool dates and raisins and dried apricots and dried mango, you'll actually find these have an comparatively astonishingly high calorie density versus fresh fruit. But fresh fruit I generally love for making it easy to be in a calorie deficit and taking care for me personally of some of those sweet cravings, right? Brilliant for me from a fat loss, weight loss perspective. Berries, though, deserve a particular mention because they are notably high in water content, especially these bad boys, especially the old strawberries, because they're like 89, maybe 90% water content. So only 10%, 11% of these things that actually contain calories. That's really, really remarkable. So you can eat large quantities. So for example, here there is about 110 calories. And I don't know how much scale there is to this, but this is a big old bowl. I could do with the gram amount again. I looked it up earlier, but 110 calories here. So fantastic for a big old snack like this. I mean, you think about the comparative amount of chocolate, right? If you're gonna have a snack versus something like dark chocolate or some cashew nuts, it's gonna be a measly portion in comparison to this. So this is why I love berries when I'm trying to lean down. And the other fruit that deserves special mention here, and I almost it was close, it was pretty tied with citrus fruits because they're also, like berries, very high in water content. But for me, the satisfaction I get from this particular food, combined again with its wonderful caloric density, its low calorie to high volume ratio, is melon, especially watermelon, which is again, you're looking at 90, maybe 91% in many cases water content. So again, therefore the calories are very, very low. But melon, again, amazing. For me though, melon is a very seasonal thing in my diet. I'm only really having melon in summer. It tastes god awful depending on where you are in the world in the winter months, I find. So for me, it's something we're in May now, start of May, so it's going to naturally come into my diet more and more in the coming months, and I'm looking forward to it. But melon is amazing. I can eat ounces and ounces of the stuff, and I look at the calorie, the way it's totting up, my calorie intake for the day, and I'm just like, it's almost like I'm cheating. Like, it feels immoral. It feels wrong that I should be losing body fat right now, being able to eat this volume of a food that I actually really, really enjoy. So yeah, melon is number 4. Number 5, this one is actually a processed food, so it's up to you. It's always up to you. It's your choice what you bloody well eat. It's not mine, is it? But it's up to you as to how open-minded you are with consuming these things, or how you kind of close that off and say, you know what, Ryan, it might be very low in calories, but that's not really a wise option for me. It is. Some of these products can be very artificial. That's on you. But cognac noodles, spit it out, cut to the chase. Cognac noodles or cognac rice or similarly, and again, you have to do a product-by-product assessment. I'm not recommending them all as a whole automatically, that they're all passable in my mind. That's not what I'm saying. But by extension, some of those like 0-calorie kind of noodle or 0-calorie rice products, not cauliflower rice, but the more processed kind, but certainly those made from cognac flour. These can be like trace calories in many cases, or like 10 calories for a whole packet. And this is just another unbelievable cheat code for weight loss. And this is particularly on my mind because one of my leanest points last year, this is very subjective, but looking in the mirror, I think one of my leaner points last year was when I was in Thailand. And when I was in Asia last year, cognac noodles are everywhere. Particularly in Thailand and Japan, I saw them a lot. And I ate them a lot. And so for me, especially in Thailand, I was eating cognac noodles, certainly not every day, but I would say 3 to 4 times per week. And I think they did play a role in me getting leaner at that point in time. The word of warning here is I do not, or I'll just tell you what I do, insight from my diet is I don't take all the healthy carbohydrate sources, or the starchy ones at least. So I'm not talking about fruit necessarily here, but I don't take the rice and the quinoa and the potato and the whole wheat pasta. I don't take those things out of my meal entirely and add in things like cauliflower noodles and cognac noodles, but also cauliflower and cognac rice. I don't do a full switch. That would be such an extreme calorie reduction, far too much. You have to go if you want fat loss to be sustainable, you have to go tentatively. There's another tip with your calorie shavings and reductions, guys. You do not want to go gung-ho and suddenly eat 1,000 calories a day because you've taken all the carbs out of your diet and now you're eating, cognac noodles all the time. But being able to add this stuff to my diet, add bulk through the cognac noodles to my diet without adding that many calories, I don't think I need to explain this one that much. You can see what an advantage that is from a fat loss perspective. Here's a bonus one. I said we were going to cover 5 things. Number 6, this food is actually higher in caloric density than the aforementioned. And so maybe you would say you can't use it as liberally as some of the other stuff I've talked about so far, all of the other stuff I've talked about so far, without there being a larger calorie consequence to it. But white potato, you look at something like a medium baking potato, being something in the region of course, the size varies hugely, but maybe 160 at the lower end, maybe even 150, up to maybe 220, 230 calories. For a decently sized, baking potato, that's really, really good. And as caloric density goes, versus other conventional carbohydrate sources, I've already mentioned rice, quinoa, whole wheat pasta, etc., oats, whole grains, as a category, generally speaking, white potato really is head and shoulders in terms of its caloric density. And I talk about this all the time, and everyone does, so it's kind of cliched at this stage. We already know, based on the satiety index, that white potato is incredible for satisfaction. And so, yeah, white potato had to make the list, even though it's a little bit higher in caloric density. White potato is something that I've talked about this years ago. I had to stop. About 3 or 4 years ago, I had to stop eating white potato because I was eating it every day and I kept getting leaner. I kept getting too skinny and I was like, no, I don't want, that's how effective it was for me. I enjoyed it so much, but it was contributing to my calories being so low at that time when I actually was done with weight loss. I was as lean as I wanted to be. It's a good problem to have, right? I'm not trying to rub salt into the wound if you're struggling with this stuff right now. But yeah, white potato, amazing in this regard. And let me throw another bonus one at you. This isn't a food item itself, but rather, more of a meal template or a cuisine, etc. But soups and stews, because they have a really high water content, have a great fat loss potential. Again, it depends what you put in them, quantity, etc. But the calories from soup is so diluted, as long as soup and stew is so diluted, as long as it remains quite watery. Ramen, again, as well, by extension, really, really good for this. So you can eat a huge bowl of soup, stew, ramen, etc. And if you've planned it right, you might only be consuming 200 or 300 calories. That's not going to be adequate for a meal for most of you, but you catch my drift. Again, you need to be sensible with what you're putting in these things, that you're not actually under-eating. But certainly, as prevention to overeating, something like soups and stews, I find, can make it very, very easy to be in a calorie deficit. So those are my 5, 6, 7, plant-based foods that for me make it much easier to be in a calorie deficit. They do not magically, as I said at the start, trigger fat loss. If only it was that straightforward. You could eat foods that melt away your belly fat or your body fat. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? I'm sure we're not far from such an invention. But these are foods that are a mainstay, a big staple in my personal diet. Melon is the only thing that kind of comes in and out seasonally, but these are a mainstay in my diet pretty much all year round, whether I'm actually trying to maintain or I'm in a very dedicated fat loss phase. But things like berries, I'll go hard with when I'm in a fat loss stage because I know the calorie to volume ratio is so advantageous. Okay, hope this helps you out. See you soon. And I forgot to say, if you like the information that I've shared here, but involves a bit too much guesswork for you, and you just want me to tell you exactly what and how much to eat to make sure you're in a sensible and sustainable calorie deficit so you can lose a very realistic 4 to 8 pounds per month until you get to your ideal healthy body weight range, this is exactly what I do for my clients inside Slim and Sustain. So click the link down below, go and learn more about Slim and Sustain there, fill out the form if you're interested, and I'll get you all the details about what it looks like to work with me. Okay, see you in the next one.